opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to August. Let's go. It's the first running point and week of August. No, it's not. What am I saying? We had August last week. Welcome to Monday, right? Monday Blues hitting me hard. I'm Anthony Hartwig, your gracious host of Running Point. Thank you so much for tuning in. Running Point, always brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on this show every single day, and we have a good packed show for you today. We have our first fall sports preview as promised. This week will be loaded with previews of the fall sports season. We start with the football field, and it will be a preview from the head coach of the Lisbon Blue Devils, first-year head coach Bill Meek. We're going to hear from him on today's show. We will also have our continuing series, Living the Dream. This is the last week of that, so we have exactly 3 more today and then 2 more after today to do. Very excited for the conclusion of that series. We have Abby Settlemeyer from UNC in North Carolina. She'll be featured on today's episode of Running Point as well. Can't wait for you guys to hear that conversation. Once again, Living the Dream segment is a way for softball players that have already gotten to where they want to go to share a little bit of their journey so it can light the way on the path for softball players in our Ysn family to listen, get advice, and to hear kind of how they can get to where they want to go. There's no better way to light the path than to hear from people who have already walked it. So we continue that series today with Abby Settlemeyer from North Carolina. Excited to have that one. But before we get to all of that, all those interviews featured today, we do have to recap a game. Austintown Little League still in action. They won their first game in the Little League World Series last night against the Latin American team out of Monterrey, Mexico. 6-0, the final score. Mila Hamley looked very impressive. Only 1 hit given up, plenty of strikeouts, and then the offense had a big start to the game. Never really let up. Mexico's pitching found the way to get them out, later in the game. But the 6-run lead that they built was more than enough for Mila Hamley the way she was going. Had 18 strikeouts in 3 games last year, and I believe the total was 13, maybe. Let me double check that. Let me double check the strikeout total. Let's get it on the Game Changer. Our good friends over at Game Changer. If you don't have an ESPN Plus subscription, you don't want to pay for ESPN Plus, but you still want to follow along with Austintown Little League, they are on Game Changer. They stream their games, so make sure to get Game Changer, and then you can go to Austintown 12U All-Stars and follow their games there. Mila Hamley had 14 strikeouts. So it was 1 off. 14 strikeouts last night. So she already has 2 more than she did in 3 games last year. No, 4 less, I should say, than 3 games last year. 3 games last year, 18 strikeouts. So now she has 14 in 1 game. that tells you something. That tells you that she is no longer the fatigued pitcher that she was last year at this point. I mean, last year, you look at what she did leading up to the Little League World Series. Not only did she go through districts and state, but she also had the travel tournament showcase with the Beverly Bandits. So there's a lot of pitching leading up to last year's World Series, right? So Amelia Hamley looks fresh and very, very strong. She was clocked at 62 by ESPN's radar gun. So I've been telling you she's got velocity for days, and she's proven it. So Austintown will play tonight at 7. If they win tonight, they will have a couple of days off before the next game. I believe the next game, if they win, would be August 8th, which is Tuesday, win Thursday. So they'll have 2 days off if they're able to win tonight. They play the winner of the Southeast game, which I believe was North Carolina coming out with the win. So they play the home team, I guess you could say, North Carolina representative in Greenville, North Carolina tonight, 7 o'clock, ESPN Plus. Amanda Scarborough, who has been on YSN before, great, good friend and friend of YSN, I guess I could say, because she's been on it. She'll be on the call as a color commentator. So make sure to tune in tonight to the Austintown Little League, going for their second win in the World Series against the team out of North Carolina. But now we'll get to the fall sports preview that we promised. It's going to be from Lisbon, brand new head coach out of Lisbon, and it is going to be Bill Meek, the head coach of the Lisbon Blue Devils. Like I said, first-year head coach. Lisbon had 7 wins last year. They're hoping to build off the success they had last year and come out with another big season. I think they can definitely match 7 wins. They might be able to get 8 or 9 if they play their cards right. They had a couple of games last year that they feel like were winnable that they let slip out of their hands a little bit. So Bill Meek hoping to change that and bring another successful season to Lisbon as their first-year head coach. Hear from the skipper himself, Anthony Hartwig, here with our first football coaches corner here with Lisbon's brand new head coach, Bill Meek. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and I'm sure you're excited about this season being right around the corner.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far. It's been hot. It's been really hot for the kids this year so far, but they're working really hard.
Yeah, hotter than most summers in Northeast Ohio, that's for sure.
Coach Salimas and I were just talking recently the other day and trying to think back when it's been this hot, this early. And right. We think it's been maybe in the 80s, the late 80s was the last time it was this hot.
One of the things I want to start off with, I know this is your first year with Lisbon, but still a very positive season that this team and these players had last year. What kind of things are you trying to take from the group that's returning and the core players that are returning from last year and try to build on the success that they did have?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have quite a few kids back that started last year and contributed significantly, and they found that way to win in football, and they found out what it took. One of the things that I'm really happy with is we have a 1,000-pound weightlifting club, and last season we had one kid in that club, Marcus Miller, who's our big offensive and defensive lineman. He's the strongest kid on the team and one of the stronger kids I've coached in a long time. And he was a kid last year that was in that 1,000-pound club. And this year, through a lot of hard work in the weight room, we have 6 in that club now. So that's been something that I think the winning and the culture change that we're trying to make about strength and conditioning and how important that is in the game of football has paid off for us this year. Now, we're not where we need to be yet, but that takes time. You don't just get really strong in 1 year. It takes a lot of years of work in the weight room.
Now, I want to also kind of venture into the Meet the Team segment and talk about, the players that you have that people have to keep an eye on and some of the players that you're so excited to be coaching this year.
lost you there for a minute.
We're going to go into a meet the team segment. I want you to go over kind of not your whole roster. I know you have a lot of kids in the team, but the big names, the big stars that are going to be coming out, and the kids we need to keep an eye on this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with that kid I just talked about, Marcus Miller. I mean, he'll be a junior. He's a 3-year starter coming into this year. He starts at offensive tackle and defensive end, and he bench pressed 350 pounds this year as his final max, and he just does everything we asked of him. He's a strong kid. Of course, our big senior tight end, Luke Kraft, is back. He's 6'4", 6'5", big body. He also plays outside linebacker for us, and he's a big target on offense. So he's a 3 or 4 year starter. On the offensive and defensive side of the ball as a senior, and then of course our tailback. Our tailback's a special kid. He's a big, strong, fast kid that really has dedicated his life to football, and that's Ashton Hinchcliffe. He's about a 200-pounder, 6 foot tall, and when people see him and look at his body, they just can't believe that he's only a junior in high school. So, those are our big kids that are coming back, but we have a lot of other kids that started as well. On both sides of the ball, one side of the ball, and our offensive line is. We have several guys back that started last year, and that's going to be a big key for us. The offensive line, the tight end, and the tailback carrying our load for a while because our skill was very young. We lost last year in graduation a lot of really talented skill kids. So these young kids that are stepping into those roles are also talented, but they're young. And the biggest thing that I've been proud of these kids is we've been going a while. And in this heat that we mentioned, they have really, really pushed through. Yesterday was extremely humid, and we were out there, and I was looking at them, and towards, about the last half hour of practice, I looked at the kids and I said, wow, they're really beat. And I told them I'm proud of them. I said, we have about 30 minutes to go here. And we really needed to push through, and they did that. And if we can continue to do that every day and just get a little bit better every day, then hopefully we're going to get to where we need to be.
Sometimes youth isn't a bad thing. Talk about what you've seen out of these young kids that kind of gives you confidence that they're going to go into this season and they're going to make these impacts on the positions that you have, the youth you talked about.
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, almost every skill kid minus our tailback is a young kid. We moved Colt Tullis, our offensive guard, last year. He's now our fullback because we're in the I. And, he started last year on the line. We have Grant Minor at quarterback. He's a sophomore, a kid that works extremely hard and throws a nice football and has some legs. So, those two kids in the backfield have done a really nice job. Then out at our wide receiver positions, we have 3 sophomores. We have Zyler Mundy, who's our Z receiver, and then Brady Lively, who's our X receiver, and then Wyatt Newbold, who's our Z B back receiver. All sophomores, all talented. Green. They haven't had playing experience. And then you go to the other side of the ball in that secondary, and there's a lot of young kids back there too. I mean, you got the Newbold kid, you got the Lively kid, and then you have at the safety positions you have the Mundy boy, and we have Aiden Myers who will be a junior working at safety back there, and then a newcomer at senior. Timmy Brandon back there working at that safety as well.
I'm sure for a first-year head coach like yourself, you see the youth and it kind of excites you because you have these kids for a couple of years to build and to work with. What does that do for you, knowing that you're going to do everything you can this year, but you also get that core as a coach for a couple of years ahead as well?
Yeah. I mean, that is very exciting. I mean, we have a very small senior class this year. We have Luke, who I mentioned, Kraft, And then, Wyatt Yost plays an offensive tackle for us. And then DJ Schreffler, who's playing both sides of the ball a little bit for us. And Timmy Brandon, this new kid. And there's a couple other seniors in there that haven't played before, but they've come out and they're trying. But that core team's going to come back. But we're not talking about next year. We're talking about this year. And, I think we're going to be a competitive team week in and week out. And if we can do that, if these young kids can get their legs under them and be able to, do what we're asking them to do, and we can lean on those experienced kids early, then we'll be in good shape. One of the other concerns that we have, and it's all small schools, it seems like, from what I'm hearing with numbers are way down. Now we're sitting about 32 on a roster rate, but when you have a roster that small, and some of the kids just aren't ready to play varsity football, you really worry about your health. That's going to be a big key to this season. If we stay healthy, I think we'll be competitive with just about anybody we play. If we get the injury bug and we get guys banged up, then that's a whole new ball game. And then we have to start really, really putting our minds to work and trying to find something that'll work that we can put a competitive team on the field.
Let's talk about the schedule that's going to be in front of you, the teams that are going to be in the way of all the success that you want to have. We'll start with the EOAC. We always know it's a hard-nosed football conference. What kind of things are you seeing out of it, and what do you expect in your first year in that conference for yourself?
Out of the EOAC, I know most of those guys that coach in the league. I mean, it's a well-coached, pretty much veteran-coached league. So we know we're getting well-coached, going up against well-coached opponents. When you start looking at it, who we have to circle and who we have to look at, I'm being honest with you here. Every game we play this year is going to be a battle. We have to take 1 week at a time. I mean, there's some really talented teams in the league. There's, Valley Christian has lost 3 seniors last year, and we beat them in a close game last year, so they got a lot back. United is a bigger school, very well coached team, and Columbiana I know has got a lot of speed. When you play Bob Spate, you better be ready to play because his kids all play hard. Now you take a look further down, Southern Local. I mean, nobody gets out of their kids than Rich Ray. I mean, his kids are bought into the weight room. They lift. They play very hard for him. You could just go on down week after week. Wellsville has a ton of great athletes. Coach Allmore's back over there. He's a coaching family guy at Latonia. So, and then last but not least, my alma mater, East Palestine. I know they're really excited about this year. They got a lot of kids back that have played a lot of years, and I think they've really bought in over there, and that's going to be a really big game for us as well. So I just named every team in the league, and it's going to be a tough conference. Who's going to win it? I would think the team that stays the healthiest and it gets better every week. That's who's going to win the league.
And then the non-league schedule, the teams that you're going to use to get ready for that tough EOAC. What do you got in the first 3 weeks?
Well, the first game of the season we play Wyndham, and it's been a little bit deceiving the last 2 years. This is the last year we're going to play them, and we've beaten them the last 2 years. And I don't remember a team that has had an injury bug like Wyndham has had the last 2 years so early in the season. They have 14 seniors coming back on this team. Last year, a lot of those kids, including their big fullback, Jake I, the coach's son, he was hurt, and there were a bunch of other guys hurt. So Wyndham, the first game of the season, is going to be a really stiff test for us, and it should show us where we stand and how much we've progressed with these young kids. Secondly, we go up to Fairport Harbor, which is a drive. We beat them down here last year 14-7. And, so you got to make that tough drive up there and play up there on Lake Erie. And that should be a really good game too. And then the third game we play Waterloo, who beat us last year. It was a weird game, and I don't think we played to our potential, but it doesn't matter. If you don't play to your potential, you're going to lose. And they beat us up there in Waterloo last year. So every game for us on our schedule is going to be a tough out, and it's going to be a tough game to play. We just got to take care of Lisbon and get ready for each opponent. We got a really good coaching staff. I'm really proud of the staff we've put together. So that should help us get the kids coached up and get them ready to play, both physically and mentally prepared to play it week in and week out.
Coach, you gave us a perfect segue as if you're a professional at this, because we wanted to ask you about your staff before you let you go, the people that you've put behind you in the positions to help you. We know head coaches don't do that alone. So talk about your staff and who you have with you.
Well, I can't start without talking about my guy, and that's Coach Jim Salimas. I was his offensive coordinator here when he was the head coach at Lisbon for many years. And, he's on our school board here in Lisbon, and he loves Lisbon. And, a very, very close, good, dear friend of mine. And he left Carrollton last year. The drive was a little bit too much for him, driving down there where he had success. And, he came on the school board. And when I got the job, he's the first guy I called. So he's doing our offense. And, man, how lucky am I to have a guy that just was voted into the Ohio High School Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame as my offensive coordinator. And you know what? He's doing it for free. He can't get paid because he's on the school board. And he's there every day and putting in the time. The kids love him. He's an old school coach, kind of like myself. And it's a lot of fun. Now the rest of the staff is almost all guys that I've coached at Lisbon in the past. And that's been probably a thrill for me, other than the kids, is getting to coach with kids that, well, they're not kids no more, men that I coached when they were kids. And it starts with our defensive coordinator, Seth Davis, who was here as the DC last year. And I got to work with him and watch these young guys coach. And, Seth does a great job. He's a high energy guy and puts in a lot of time. And you can go on down the list of all the coaches that we have. And adding to that paid staff, we have some other volunteers. Mr. Bing, Kyle Bing, who I coached with here years ago, is an administrator here at the school, and he's helping out with our quarterbacks in our pass game. Charles Bell, who was a defensive coordinator here before, is going to come in and help during the season. And last but not least, I got to put a little note out about my dad. My dad's the reason I'm sitting here today as a coach. And, he's 3 years old and probably the best X and O coach I've ever met. And he's going to help us out, once the season gets going. So we got a very veteran staff with tons of experience, but we also have that mix of paid coaches that are young and hungry and trying to learn the game. And I just can't say enough about our staff. We have a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. We enjoy each other's company and spending time together and working all with the same, idea of trying to get these kids ready to play what I feel is the greatest team sport that exists in high school football.
Coach, we are so excited for the season. We're excited to see what Lisbon has to offer this year. I think it's going to be an exciting season for all you guys. We wish you the best of luck this year. Thank you for your time and giving us a solid preview, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.
Hey, thank you, and thank you to YSN for everything you do. I just want to throw this out. We had an exchange student in our house this past year. She was in Sweden, and she was so excited to be able to know that when she went back that she was going to be able to watch the games on YSN. You guys do a great service to our community here in Columbiana County.
Love to hear that. We'll look for the views from Sweden and your games this year. All right.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we'll teach our broadcasters some Swedish so they can give some shout outs.
There we go. Thanks a lot.
You got it. That was Bill Meek from Lisbon. Very excited about what he's bringing to this Lisbon team that, like I said, was already pretty successful last year. Had a good season. They went 7-4 last year. Made the playoffs. Got a couple of big time wins. Had a couple of games against some good teams that really could have gone either way too. So I think they're in a really good spot. They do return, a pretty good core. They have a couple of skill positions that he was talking about. They need to go out there and prove themselves, but the core of the team is there, and the leaders are there. So Lou's been trying to gear up for another football season. We're very excited for it. Like all the football teams, Lisbon opens up on August 23rd on Friday. Can't wait for them to open up the season against Wyndham, a team that they beat last year, but Bill Meek was very honest about saying, hey, you know what? They dealt with injuries. They have a lot of health coming back, and we got them game one. They want to prove a lot of people wrong. That Wyndham program going to be coming in hot. Ty Bartell actually got the Wyndham head coach, Coach I, last week, so we'll be having a coach's corner with him not too far into the future. So stay tuned for that if you're from Wyndham and want to hear from your football program. But coming up next on Running Point, we have Living the Dream with Abby Centermeyer. That'll be coming up after this commercial break on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown that you just heard from in that commercial break. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on Running Point. We already had a season preview with the head football coach, over at Lisbon, Bill Meekin. That was a great conversation. We also have the third to last. Is that right? Yeah, third to last episode of Living the Dream, the segment that we've been doing all summer, final week of it, and we are finishing strong. We have Abby Centermeyer from UNC, a very great player, back-to-back All-ACC seasons to finish out her career as a Tar Heel. We've had a couple of Dukies on, right? So now we have to bring on some Tar Heel Blue to even things out in the state of North Carolina. So I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did. Abby Centermeyer from North Carolina. Anthony Harwig here with another episode of Living the Dream, the segment we've been doing all summer long to put softball players that have gotten to, where our softball players want to be, and they can share their journeys and advice for the future generation of softball players. We are joined by someone you might know from North Carolina. You might know her as a hometown hero from this great state of North Carolina. But wherever you know her from, it is Abby Settlemeyer from the Tar Heels. Abby, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Of course. I'm excited to be here.
Now, no pressure, but, you're the first Tar Heel we've had. We've had a couple of Dukies on, so you got to represent for the rivalry,
Oh, gosh.
When we talk about your journey, you've been able to do a lot of awesome things, but we want to start with the beginning and talk about kind of picking up the sport and what got you into softball and what made you fall in love with the sport.
Yeah, so I was born into a softball family. My older sister, she played softball ever since she was little, played travel ball. She went to college at USC Upstate from 2011 to 2015. So I grew up watching her. I grew up at the softball field. So I've just been around the sport literally my entire life. Picked up the ball really early and just fell in love with it. So I started playing travel ball when I was around 6 years old. I started playing 8 and under at a younger age. I wouldn't say I was super developed at that age, but I had just been around the sport for a while, so I knew the basics of it. So played travel ball till I was about 6. Played on a few different teams. I played on the Carolina Cardinals Chandler in high school, and that's kind of what helped me through the recruiting process. They're a really high caliber team. We traveled everywhere. My coach was really helpful in my recruiting process. So yeah, softball has been my life.
When you talk about your recruiting process, I know everyone is different, and you were a part of a generation that could recruit very early, so yours is even different than it is now. What do you remember the most about your process and getting through the recruiting and picking UNC as the place you wanted to be?
Yeah, I actually started the recruiting process very young, probably around 6th grade. I started going to camps in the local area. I started really small. Like I would go to some Division II schools. I went to my sister's school, obviously, for a lot of camps. And honestly didn't think that UNC was an option for me. But I would go to their camps. I would send them all of my information for tournaments in the area if they were there. And they just so happened to see me at a tournament in Florida. They liked what they saw. I went on a visit the summer before my freshman year of high school, and I committed right away.
From someone that you just said you didn't think that UNC was going to have you on your radar, what was it like when you heard, hey, UNC is interested in me? That's a big time Power 5 school. Was that kind of a confidence boost for you?
Oh yeah, it was. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like shocked, honestly, because I had interest from other Division I schools, but nothing from an ACC or Power 5 team. So the fact that they were interested in me and wanted me to come for a visit, I was beyond excited. Obviously, growing up in North Carolina, you grow up as a UNC fan. So my family's been Tar Heels since I can remember. We watched all the basketball games, all the football games growing up. So the fact that they were interested in me was honestly a dream come true.
So it was a Tar Heel family even before you went there, right? So you guys loved the Tar Heels, that Tar Heel blue. So from a family perspective, what was the reaction when you committed to UNC and they knew that they were going to be able to reinforce that fanhood?
Mm-hmm. My dad was so excited. My dad's like the biggest UNC fan I know. Like he has tattoos and everything. So he's like born, bred, dead, honestly. So he was just beyond excited. I'm pretty sure he cried when I committed. So it was just a very special moment to share with my family. They were very proud of me. They supported every decision I made. And it was nice to be closer to home. So UNC is about 2.5 hours from Hickory, where I'm from. So it was nice to be able to go somewhere closer to home where I really felt like I belonged, where my family could also come and watch me if they wanted to. So.
All right. So when you talk about the rest of your career before you get into college, you're the Gatorade Player of the Year in North Carolina in 2018. what talk about staying driven throughout the rest of your career once you committed between that time and stepping foot on UNC's campus, and what it took to keep yourself motivated even though the recruiting process was done and you knew where you were going.
Right. So my parents were very, I wouldn't say pushy by any means, but they definitely held me to a higher standard when it came to softball and making sure I was staying in shape, working on my skills. Even in high school, they expected me to do well beyond my peers because I had committed to such a high caliber school. So my parents definitely helped me stay focused and, stay driven towards my goals. And I would say my high school coach also helped me a lot. I still talk to him to this day. He just really helped me stay focused on my end goals and making sure I was being smart at practice, making sure I wasn't doing something that would, jeopardize my future in college. And he definitely let me expand and try new things, which I really appreciated. So
I'm sure when you commit to a big school like UNC, especially when you're in North Carolina, that kind of makes you a big commodity in the community. I mean, people notice when someone, puts their name on a big college like that. What was it like to be a quote unquote like hometown hero for your high school career? And I'm sure you had a bunch of the local media, talking to you and wanting to know your story. What was that like for you growing up and dealing with kind of the limelight in the local sense?
it was definitely different because just my personality, I don't really like the attention. I don't like to be, bragged about or anything like that. I'm really like keep to myself, pretty reserved. So when I did commit in high school, it was different, honestly. It got brought up like every single day when I went to school. And I wouldn't say I had the pressure to perform in high school, but it was definitely something in the back of my mind, because everyone knows where you're going, especially if you're one of the only ones on your team that's committed to somewhere. So I would say it was different. I definitely got more attention than I probably wanted when I was younger, but I'm super thankful for my community. They've always supported me and kept up with me throughout my college career.
We talked about how special it was to commit to UNC. What was signing day like when you put that pin on the dotted line and you were officially a Tar Heel? You don't have to have committed anymore. You're signed. You're going there. What was that like?
It was amazing. It was honestly like just relief of all of the times before then. Like I worked so hard to get to this point and it's finally official. And it was just very special. Like I had my whole family there. I had all of my friends from high school, my travel ball coach, everyone that helped me get to that point was there. So it was a very special day. And I'm super grateful for my high school for, setting up a special display and everything. So it was super nice.
All right. So when you step on campus, I'm going to ask, what was your first welcome to college softball moment when you realized really quickly, different world now, different reality?
Oh boy. I have to say the first tournament we played in, because my freshman year, our first tournament, we opened up in Mexico, of all places. So that was just an eye-opening experience in itself. I mean, in travel ball, I played, really high caliber teams, and I played, players who went to D1 schools, and I was used to playing those type of players, but never to the extent of being in college, starting as a freshman at shortstop. It was a very stressful but exciting moment for me. I just took it all in. I was like, wow, I finally made it. I'm on the biggest stage in Mexico, playing Oklahoma State, playing Washington, all of these big time schools that you grew up watching. So it was really cool.
How fast did you acclimate to the demands of being a D1 college athlete when it comes to not just the games but also the practices, the lifting, the schoolwork, the class load? What was it like to kind of try to transition into that?
Mm-hmm. I knew my sister really helped me prepare for college just because she had gone before me and she knew what it was like. So she told me in high school, like, this is what you need to do to prepare. You need to, figure out the best way for you to study. You need to make sure that you're working out, you're lifting weights, you're running, doing all those things. So my sister really helped me, and I'm super thankful that I had someone like her to kind of prepare me a little bit for college. But I would say it did take a while. I would say first through the fall of the first year, was an adjustment for sure. Just the time management aspect of it, going to class, making sure you're doing all of your work for that while also, doing extra work outside of practice for softball. But I definitely had teammates, my freshman class, we were all super dedicated. We all helped each other. So that was really nice too.
So when we're talking about your career at UNC, you have a great first season, sophomore year, 2020. It's that COVID year. And then you have to go through that injury where you have to redshirt, and then you have to go through all that, and then you have to come back the next year and try to get yourself back to where you were. What was it like going through all that? COVID hits, and then the next year when you think you're going to get right back to it, you have to deal with an injury.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, those were the hardest years of my life so far. I was away from the sport for about 2.5 years, and that's the longest I've ever been away from softball since I started when I was like 6 years old. So it was definitely a hard time for me. I definitely went through some lows, and just having an ACL injury is just a hardship in itself. It's one of like the hardest injuries to come back from, not just physically, but mentally. And that's the first major injury I've had in my career. And to have it in college was super upsetting and frustrating. But I wouldn't change it now looking back. I learned a lot through it. I grew a lot. And I also just became a better player overall. Just seeing the game from the other side for that long period of time really helped me like understand different aspects of it that I didn't really think about before. So it was hard, but I'm grateful for the experience.
A lot of people would have taken that, there were weaker minds would have been like, what, COVID plus injury, that's the doors open for me to leave the sport, whatever. What got you through it? Well, like, what kept you driven? What kept you motivated to come back on the other end of that tunnel?
I would just say my internal passion and desire. I've always wanted to play softball in college, and I knew that wasn't the end for me. I knew that wasn't how I wanted to end my story, in my career. So I always had that inner passion to just reach my goals that I had set for myself going into college. And I knew that I had those years to, come back and do my career the way I wanted to. So I would say the main thing was just my desire to reach my goals.
And then you fast forward to your 2023, your redshirt senior year, where you lead the team in RBIs. I mean, good thing you came back, right? Because you really found a groove, especially your last two seasons at UNC. How rewarding was 2023 and 24, your graduate year, knowing how much you had went through in those 2 years?
It was amazing. It was like all of those hardships that I went through the years before were worth it at the end of the day. Like all of those times where I wanted to give up, I wanted to quit, and my decision to, keep pushing forward, keep doing all those hard things was really just paid off in the end. And I'm just super grateful for my coaching staff at the time. They were super supportive. They knew everything I had gone through, so they were always there for me, picking me up. And we had a new coaching staff that year. We had Coach Fale from Oklahoma who came on staff that year. And I really give a lot of credit to her for, helping me grow back my confidence. After being away from the game for 2.5 years or so, you kind of lose your confidence some. And she really helped me build that back up. And I think that's the main reason I was so successful.
I know a lot of players, once they graduate and they're done with the sport, they struggle with what to do next because the sport has been their life for so long. How much did those 2.5 years away from the sport help you find an identity outside of softball and help it easier to deal with life after softball?
Yeah, for sure. That was probably one of the hardest things for me was, softball had been my life for so long, and I identified myself as a softball player. So, finding something outside of the game was one of my bigger challenges. But I found my interest in other things. I read books. I read a lot of books during that time. I got into my faith more. So just those type of things, like realizing that softball isn't everything. There's more to life than softball, and that's not all who I am. So I think that's kind of what helped me transition out of the sport more, knowing that there's more to life than softball. And yeah, I feel like that kind of helped me kind of transition into the real world a little bit better.
Real world.
Yeah.
It's a scary world out there. What ways are you keeping softball as a part of your life, though? We know that it can't just be a clean cut. We know that you're going to keep the game, keep impacting the sport. What ways are you going to try to keep, softball in your life?
For sure. I knew when I graduated, I didn't want to completely, get away from softball. Like, I've loved it since I was little. I still love it. I watch it like a fan. So I knew I wanted to stay in it. So I looked up just facilities in my area. So I give lessons every week at a facility called Diamond and Aces. It's in Mooresville, North Carolina. So I give lessons every week to young girls in the Raleigh area, Durham area. And I've really enjoyed it. And I've really enjoyed just connecting with them and giving back and providing my knowledge and experience. So I definitely think I'll do that for a while.
You get to interact with those girls that want to be where you were. They want to get to a college softball. I'm sure a lot of them dream of that. What kind of things do you tell them of pillars that you have to meet to get yourself to your dreams?
Mm-hmm. The main thing that I talk to them about is making sure that what we do in the lesson that they can do on their own, which means they're, aware of their body, aware of their swing, comfortable doing things on their own and practicing outside of their travel ball games or tournaments. That's something that's really important. That helps you build your confidence up. When you prepare throughout the week and you go into a game, you're not as scared or nervous because you've done the work before. So I definitely, encourage them to do that. And I encourage them also to just relax and breathe and be calm. Working with me, they get really nervous. They get super tense because they want to do well in front of me. But I always just encourage them to relax and be calm. Like, I'm here to help them. And I think that helps them at the end of the day.
One of the things that I like asking the players that we've brought on this summer, since they've all finished their college career now, what's something you look back on in your first year that you wish you would have known that you know now when you stepped on campus?
That's a great question. I wish I would have known how big of a leader and a presence I do have on the field. Coming in as a freshman, playing shortstop, I definitely didn't realize how much I had to talk, how much I impacted everyone around me until I kind of, grew throughout the years, became more mature, became more outspoken. I think my freshman year, I wish I would have known that a little bit more so I could have, helped my teammates a little bit more, contributed differently. I definitely think that I was a lead by example type of player, and I still am, but, I kind of had to transition into more of an outspoken verbal leader. So I think I wish I would have known that more as a freshman, looking back.
At the end of all these interviews, whether we're interviewing high schoolers, little leaguers, or college players like yourself, we like to give the player a chance to take the limelight off themselves a little bit and shine it on the people that got them to where they are. And I know your village is a big one. It has to be. So I want to give you as much time as you want to give out your shout outs, to thanks to the people that helped you along the way.
Yeah, for sure. My first shout out has to be my family. Shout out to my sister, Kendall, who helped me prepare for college, do all those things, give me tips, be an open ear for me, even in college. When I was struggling, she was always there to listen to me. So definitely big shout out to her. And I have to shout out my high school coach. I mean, not many people think that their high school coach is such a huge deal when it comes to, their career or, going to college and being prepared. But he really instilled a lot of confidence in me and supported me throughout college. And I really appreciate him. And got to shout out my team and my coaches. I mean, I wouldn't have made it there without them. And super grateful.
All right, Abby, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck in all the things that you're doing in the future. And we can't wait to talk to you again real soon.
Awesome.
That was Abby Settlemeyer from UNC, North Carolina. A great conversation. Once again, Living the Dream segment. This is the final week of it. We have 2 more to go. Now, I guess you could say 2 more until the season finale. Just like the House of the Dragon season finale last night. Will be hopefully a little bit more eventful than that. I watched it and I was like, oh, I need more to happen. I don't want to wait 2 years after that. Ugh. If you're a House of the Dragon fan, you feel me. You feel me. No spoilers. No spoilers. I don't spoil anything. But I just felt like more could have happened. With that being said, we will end today's episode of Running Point. Be back here tomorrow from 1 to 2 with more season previews, more Living the Dream segments, all that fun stuff on Running Point. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Austintown Little League playing tonight at 7 o'clock. ESPN Plus. Good luck to them.